Let's see. Is App Stores. And we should be going live.
Oh, you see yourself. Yeah, you're live.
And we should be live now. Yes. Okay, I'm gonna mute this. And it should all be good to go. Yes, we are live. Hello, everybody. Hello, Gijs.
Hello there.
Hello, Jan Jelle.
Hey guys.
We are live broadcasting from the Wonderkerk and Media Monks, and this is a new edition of our PR Lab webinars. This time we're going to be discussing creating content at scale. I'm so glad the broadcasting is working. every single time we're going to do a webinar, something goes wrong, and I can breathe again. Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much to the PR Lab team behind the screens for making this work. And thank you so much, Gijs and Jan Jelle, for joining. Yeah, so as you know, we organize webinars, meetups, and events at PR Lab. We have a community of over 1,300 PR and marketing professionals that join our events and our meetups, and they just come to us because they want to learn about innovation in the field of marketing and communications in the creative world as well. And that's what we do. We deliver. We are not only a PR agency, but we also try to keep our community alive. And we always get really good speakers like today. Gijs is the second time that you join us. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And Jan Jelle, welcome to the PR Lab community. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing my screen. Let's see if this works. Yes. And I'm going to basically, yes, there we go. I hope everyone can see my screen. So yeah, before I hand over the stage, the virtual stage to Gijs, I will tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm Matthias, I'm the founder of PR Lab. PR Lab is a PR agency based in Amsterdam. We are specialized in startups and scale-ups and the tech sector in general. And we just help them boost their visibility among the target audiences and basically create engagement and get featured in the press and basically just get their words out there. So these are some of the clients that we work with. So as I always say, these events are not to talk about us, are all about learning. So it's a pleasure for me to introduce you to Gijs. He is the CEO of Lemon Scented Tea. And Gijs, I don't need to say much about you because I think you are quite well known already. And I'm just going to hand over the stage to you.
Fantastic.
And yeah, it's all yours.
I will enter the stage by moving the computer a little bit in front of me. Hope everybody sees it. Nobody can really react, but I hope it's good right now. Yes, I am Gijs van Fijn, the managing director of Lemon Scented Tea and also founder of Lemon Scented Tea. Today I'm going to run you through our agency process, you could say, our approach. It's the step plan, how we make success for our clients. Lemon Scented Tea's creative agency, we're based in Amsterdam and in Munich. And we work for great clients like Wijn Stefan, the beer brand, and Jägermeister, and Vattenfall, Nuon Vattenfall, Jules, Veloretti, and all kinds of other great brands. Before I'm diving into the actual content of the approach, the brand hero approach, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of story about Lemon Scented Tea, because what is that name actually? You might have thought, what? Lemon Scented Tea? What the hell is that? Well, there's a little story behind it. And that story is as follows. We compare the ancient ritual of making tea with building strong brands and great communication. And the teapot resembles society, so the life of our consumers, and the tea bag resembles the key values, the core story of the brand. So we together with the client compose what should be in the tea bag, and then we put the tea bag in the water, and through great communication, smart ideas, and and smart media, the content of the tea bag will infuse into the lives of the consumer. So what you're seeing right now is actually what we're doing, giving brands flavors and a color. Yeah, that's our name, but what do? We create brands with the power of story. We use actually story techniques used in film and gaming industries to build strong brands and create effective communication. But what does that mean for us? Well, for us, does it mean that we always start with the story of a brand? Every brand should have a remarkable story that strikes the emotion. That's our opinion. It should be a story that combines the purpose of the brand with the value proposition of the brand. That is the actual message you use to sell your products and the brand personality. If you have that straight, then you have your way to go as a brand and you know where to go. You have a direction. And with that direction, you can drive communication, advertising, but also innovation and also employer brand and also culture. So that story is, as we say, more or less the story that drives the business. That's actually step number one. Step number two is that, okay, when you have your story, you want to share it. If you have a lot of data, you can share it really one-on-one. I think, Jan Jelle, you will dive into that later. But if you have less data, they share probably to a bigger audience. But the good thing about a story is that the story is layered. So you have one overall story for the brand, but you can have several sub-stories and sub-chapters for different audiences and different moments in the journey. And that really helps because then you can be versatile as a brand and at the same time you are very consistent. And the end goal is, of course, to serve and excite all your customers at the right moment. So it doesn't matter what stage they're in and what phase in the customer journey, what segment, they get a right answer from you when they want it and where they want it. And I think Lego is a fantastic example because they have several content formats and several innovative platforms where everyone who loves Lego can get something they want, from brick rooms to TV programs to, of course, the actual stuff itself, but also movies, etc., etc. I think Lego is a very good example of a full brand which can be used by many people in different ways, but still is very consistent. So this is a little bit the overall step plan we use. First, we look at marketing and branding. That's what I'm going to talk about a second ago. Then we go into communication, a big idea, a concept, and different sub-concepts. And then we go into the campaign execution. There we work with customer journey from Google. See, think, do, care. Where in C phase, you talk more about the brand. In think phase, more about product. In do, more about the offer. And in care, more about advocacy. And of course, because you get a lot of data out of this execution, you start to amplify impact and start to optimize where possible. So we create brand with the power of story, but what is the power of story? And then I've used Frozen, one of the biggest successes of Disney. This is just Frozen 1 actually, to showcase the power of story. Then I'm going to do a little quiz, but nobody can really answer the quiz, but I'm going to have a moment. You answer this yourself on top of your mind, and then I'll come back with the answer. So in the box office, so ticket sales, they sold $1.3 billion with Frozen 1, just one. What do you think how much they made with their merchandising on Frozen 1? And now I'm waiting, and you have your answer in your mind, right? And there it comes. 15.1 billion they made on merchandising. And if you look at the power of story, how is it possible? A couple of people from Hollywood made up a story. Okay, they're good people, professional people, but they just made up a story. And it's an unreal story, it's just made up. And people then globally are so engaged that they start to to buy stuff, most of the time rubbish, from Disney for 15.1 billion. And that's one part. So you can, with the story, you can engage people. So they really start to do something for you. You can persuade them to make an action. The second part of the power story is that this little bag is an actual bag. And this bag without Anna Elsa is €2.50. And with Anna Elsa, it's €5. So what does the story do? The story, first of all, engages us. But the second, it builds perceived value. And that's exactly what we want as marketeers. We want to build perceived value because then there's a margin. That's the whole game of marketing, you could say. So what does the story do for you? One, engagement. Secondly, building perceived value. And then I think about 6 years ago, we stumbled upon this, and it was for us quite a eureka moment. There is one universal storytelling structure in the world. That means that all movies, all books, all plays from Hamlet to a modern play, all games have the same structure, storytelling structure. So Superman, Godfather Bible, Mario Brothers, and Lord of the Rings have all the same structure. What is the structure? And I'm doing it with 2 films, one old one, The Matrix, and the other one, The Lion King. In every story, there's always a hero. The hero fights to achieve a goal, liberate a princess, find a treasure, etc., etc. But the hero is always special. For example, Superman has strong powers. Spider-Man can shoot a spider cop. And there is always an adversary in a story and a central conflict. These 4 elements mainly make up a story. So for example, The Matrix, and I'm gonna do it together with you guys, the main hero was, yes, Neo. Goal, liberate the world from the Matrix, means he was the one, he could bend the spoon, etc., etc. Adversary, yes, the Matrix, and the conflict, man versus machine. So, and now we're gonna do The Lion King. The hero, now wait, you give the answer, yes. Simba, go, become king of the animal world, means who helped him, his friends. Adversary, yes, ugly uncle Scar. Conflict, Scar versus Simba, and also Simba had to overcome himself to believe he could be king. So this structure you see everywhere. And why does this structure work for us? Well, we are run by our reptile brain, and that's the eldest brain, a part of the brain we have. It's formed millions of years ago when we were chasing bears. And we weren't that smart. We almost like animals, you could say. This part of the brain drives and controls the heartbeat, hunger, thirst, sex drive, all the basic things we have as a person. And it also works for 90% of all decisions we make. Dus the reptile brain controls 90% of our decision making. But this brain was formed when we were chasing bears, meaning a lot of conflict. We weren't that smart as we are now. So, or it was a bear who could kill you, or somebody else wanted to steal your meat, or your wife, etc., etc. So it was a time full of conflict. So this brain only reacts on tension, on conflict. So if you want to reach someone, because 90% of the decisions are made through this reptile brain, you need to create some tension, some conflict, so it switches on. If it's not being switched on, then it's just information and people will forget it. Therefore, all these big corporations, media companies use this structure to bring conflict in there. So the conflict between the hero and the adversary. Without it, it's just information and we won't recognize it and we won't remember it.
If I can say something to all the people listening, there is a chat box on YouTube. Please feel free to ask any questions that you might have, and we will address them at the end of High session. Thank you.
Yeah. So this reptile brain is important, and if you're a marketeer or you're part of a brand, the only thing you want to do is get in the reptile brain to touch them emotionally. Why? Because then they're willing to pay more, and you get them engaged, so you stand out of the clutter. So yeah, what works for entertainment? I mean, all Netflix series, all movies use this super story, this super persuasive story. Why not use it for brands? And that's exactly what we've done. And we call that the brand hero approach. And I'm going to run you through this approach together with the case of Veloretti. Veloretti is a Dutch bike brand, only sold through e-commerce. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later. This is the brand hero approach, 5 steps. Here's the first step is the who are you? The second step is why do you tell your story? So we're gonna look at your purpose, but also insights within the customer, at the customer side, and also what the marketing challenge is. The what's your story then? The when and where should you tell this story? Where is your target audience? And how are you gonna execute the story? So these are the 5 main steps we use. And I'm gonna run you through these 5 steps via the Veloretti case. So if you look at Veloretti came to us, I think about 2 years ago. And the question was, we're doing quite okay here in the Netherlands, especially also in Amsterdam, but we like to conquer other cities. So the question was, can we build the brand in other cities and also directly drive sales? It's not like when you work for Vattenfall, you really have a brand objective, but this is everything. It's awareness, it's consideration, it's just getting sales. So the target is 20, 35-year-olds in major European cities. And the main issue with the brand was great design, good value for money, little distinction from other brands. When somebody else would also make more or less the same bike, they would lose. And it lacked emotion. So that was also the challenge we were up to. Instead of going only in the steps, I'm now going to show you the actual creative campaign we've made. And then I'm going to walk you back how we came up with this creative concept. So let's dive into that. Here it comes. So this is the full video.
Who needs 20 minutes for a 20-minute ride? They don't. They won't. They look at the clock, wait until the digits drop. Inhabitants with strange habits, addicted to that thing they find in their street, speed. Trigger finger ready to shoot, cause wanderers disorder daily routes. Red bikes, red lights, red eyes. Still they ride, rush and race through a land with sticks and stones which break their bones. They battle with tribes who prefer other forms of transport, tested by the gods of wind and water. And when the biggest bicycle city keeps throwing big city challenges in their paths, they ride. They ride and race from zero to hero with only 2 wheels and their pumping heart as their engine. I am their ally. They created me for all their wishes and needs, born, forged and designed in the toughest test area, Amsterdam. Ready to defy all the challenges your city has to offer. Me. No city tough enough.
So that's the end result of everything we've done. And of course, there are a lot of more assets, but this is just the full video, what you're seeing right now. I come to actually later on how we translate this in the full customer journey. So this is the end result, but how did we get here? Well, the first step, who are you? I think it's very important as a brand to know who you are, because when you know who you are, you can also determine where you should go. It's a little bit philosophical, but it's actually quite simple. In general, you can also think when you talk about your brand, about yourself and about a person. And we'll refer to that a little bit later in the presentation. So the first step, who are you? Well, we work with the archetypes from Carl Jung to determine who you are. So what's your identity, your brand identity? It consists of 12 different archetypes. Some use 8, some use 16. I mean, we use 12. There are 2 different axes, horizontal and vertical. Vertical from change to stability and horizontal from challenge to well-being. And these archetypes are visuals imprinted in our heads. For example, when I'm telling to you, make up in your mind a wise man, then probably you think of a gray guy like Q in the movies, or Parkimentus or Dumbledore, these old wise people. When I'm saying think about a seducer, then probably it's like Julio Iglesias or Enrique Iglesias kind of guy with a rose, or a blonde girl with a red dress. When you think about a rebel, there are all certain images you have in your mind, and all the movies and stories which are made at the moment use these simple archetypes. Because when, for example, a sage starts to be very seductive, we're like, ew, what's happening here in this movie? So these are really imprinted things from the USA till China, and from old to young. This is pretty stable. And the good thing is you can also use that for brands. So when we're sitting together with a company, we determine together what is your archetype. And the funny thing is 8 out of 10 instantly pinpoint the archetype they think they are. So 8 out of 10. Maybe 2 others, they have different opinion. So this archetype thing is really intuitive and really works. So a little quiz also right now without any answers. But if you look at the car industry, we have mapped out the archetypes. And for yourself, think about Volvo. Where would you place Volvo? Where would you place Mercedes? And where would you place Audi? Well, I'm gonna share it quickly with you because of the time. Well, there you go. Volvo is really about caregiving. It's about safety. Mercedes says, das beste oder nichts. It's a ruler. We are the king. Das beste oder nichts. Audi, for example, is Vorsprung durch Technik. It's about information. It's about being smart. And BMW is about the ultimate driving experience. It's about the best thing. For example, also Nike is the typical warrior because it says, do something, just do it. Stop being passive. So we've done for Veloretti, we did the same. And they have on their packaging, fuck cars, that has been there for ages. So we said, okay, you're a rebel if you put fuck cars on your packaging. And also with all discussions we had with the management team, it was very clear they are a rebel. They really want people out of the cars onto the bikes. So basically when you know who you are as an archetype, then also you know what you're fighting for. For example, a ruler fights for order in the country. A rebel fights for freedom. And the funny thing is, if you know what you fight for, and you know your archetype, of course, then you also know what you fight against, because a rebel fights against restrictions, and a ruler fights against chaos, because he doesn't want to have chaos in the country. A warrior like Nike fights against passivity and fights for achievement. So just do is about achievement, and basically fight passivity is get out the couch and do something. So the good thing is when you know your archetype, you already have almost all the elements you want to use in your story. So if you come to the next step, why do you tell your story? We look at the purpose. That comes from the brand identity. What does your brand fight for? It's a rebel, so it fights for liberation, you could say, for freedom. But also in this step, we really look at the culture and consumer insights and the data we have around, because you can have a fantastic story about being rebellious. If nobody cares, if nobody wants it, then you become irrelevant. So in this step, it's really important to really dive into the consumer insights. And of course, how does it help you? I mean, what's your marketing challenge? What's your business challenge? Without these two, it's just a story you want to share, but it has to be hyper relevant. And with these steps for the business and the consumer insights, it will become relevant. So for Veloretti, the most rebellious bicycle brand in the world, that's what their identity is, freedom. The brand challenge is, well, I already told you guys, it's brand preference and sales in other cities. And the culture and consumer insights, this is like a summary of what has been out there, but we all know cycling is good, also in other cities. I mean, it's really on the rise, and there's a big opportunity for them. So people feel cycling is good for themselves, but also for the environment. And then you end up with a fantastic purpose for the brand, is liberate people. And then more specifically from cars. And then what's the story? Well, we already did this together with each other. So basically what we're doing is this super engaging, persuasive structure. We actually made it into a simple brand model, which you can fill out any time you actually work on it. It's super simple. And it's basically this. So the blue one is who are you as a brand? The top one, brand archetype. The second one below is the goal, is the purpose. Means on the left side is what you make different as a brand. For example, you maybe really have a fantastic attitude or great distribution or fantastic design. That's all in the means part. And on the right end, it's the adversary. So without this red bulb, this red dot, your story is less relevant, because you want to touch your reptile brain. So having these four in place, you have the basic elements of your brand, and then you can start to work with it. For Veloretti, I'm going to share with you, well, the most rebellious bike brand in the world. Goal, we already know that, liberate people from cars. Adversary, restrictions caused by other forms of transportation. We're really fighting other forms of transportation. In Paris, they've done a fantastic activation, giving people a free bike if they would leave their car at home and jump on the bike. And the means, and this is quite interesting, we actually add the Amsterdam mentality, and they've never did that actually. So it was just product design and the value for money proposition, but the Amsterdam feel, the rebellious Amsterdam feel, they didn't really add in the brand. And you've seen it in the video. It's on the edgy side of things. And of course, great quality product and cool design. So at the means, we added this step, and which has been a very important step if you look at the end result, the creative. Yeah, then of course, we start to develop the story and the creative concept, the overall big idea for the long run, for years to come. And you've seen also that No City Tough Enough has been the tagline for that. So, yeah, this is a long story. You don't have to read it, but it's a really nice keynote. And we're gonna jump to the next slide in a bit. Yes. And then we go to the when and where. Now we have the overall brand identity. We know where you stand for. We know why are we actually communicating this, business-wise, relevant for the consumer and from the brand identity. We have our story more or less and the concept, and now where the hell should we share it? Well, we call it story mapping. It's basically a simple way of, effective way of using the right narrative technique throughout the customer journey. And I'm going to run you through the different stages in the customer journey and the content that match this customer journey phases. So main challenge, main European cities, 25 to 35 years, 25, 35 years old, Amsterdam, Berlin, London, Rome, Barcelona, and Paris. And these are the stages we have looked at. So it is
Who needs 20 minutes for a 20-minute ride? They don't.
In the C phase,
they won't.
Put that off. In the C phase, it's about maximizing impressions. So we made 6 seconds teasers on video, of course also the full video, and of course also in cinema. This is just getting it out there and getting people to see it, getting the brand name out there. It's more short, it's more impactful, it's more on instant 1.7 seconds impressions. So this is just about getting awareness. The second step is think. We use different influencers also in the movie. You've seen different people in the movie, and all these people had their own storylines on social. And within these storylines, they shared why they actually also use these fantastic bikes. So you get a little bit more background. And also, of course, we had social and product content on our own socials to tell more about the bike, the features, how it rides, etc., the colors. So basically, first step is getting awareness out there. If you're interested, you get a little bit more attention and a little bit more depth on the content. So the third step is really point of sale. So they have one concept store in Amsterdam. So we really changed that completely. On the website, we changed all the imagery because we shot the video, but also a humongous amount of photos. So we use that in the full customer journey, also in the sales funnel, with the sole goal to enhance the quality. So when you're in this buying funnel, you really feel that you're buying quality. And the last one is care. They have a fantastic database, around 100,000 and more. And we get their data when they're basically buying the bike. So we know more or less when they need a new bike, but also when they're getting kits, for example. So we start up a email program to really start to upsell and cross-sell. And also create a tell a friend campaign, so they could share this with others, with friends. Seasonality is of course also interesting. For example, when winter is coming or spring is coming, it's time for a new bike. Yeah, how you've seen already the communication and the creative. That's the video I just told you, and tons of other assets. But you saw the video, so you know what the campaign and the brand is about. Results were fantastic. Of course, we have also campaigns which have less great results, but this is a fantastic one. Sales increased tremendously, not only in the Netherlands, but especially also in the other European cities. It's good maybe when you want to do this yourself and you want to work with the model. I have 2 small tools. This one I'm going to share also the presentation. So you can fill this out for yourself basically, because it's very simple. And if you have these 4 elements, then you have the basic story of your brand, and then you can start to become creative, because then you are consistent and you know you tap into the right area for the brand. This is a very cool one. For example, when you trying to create a speech for the brand, or you really want to do your pitch when you're at a birthday party, what is your brand about? Then you can say, we are X, we think it's ridiculous that. So you really start to tell about your adversary. That's why we fight against. We do this with, these are your means. So we help people to, etc. So keep an eye on us as we gonna do some cool things. This was it for me.
Wow.
Am I in time?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah?
Perfect timing.
Super
Yes.
cool. Yeah, let's do some questions.
Yes. So let me stop sharing my screen. Yes. So thank you so much, Gijs.
Yeah,
That was
cool.
amazing. That was
Pleasure.
very, very, very insightful. I actually have a question. So you actually talk about the stages in the customer journey, and then you mentioned something about measuring the consumer insights, right? And like keeping in mind, what is your advice for brands that, like people that work in brands that are watching this webinar, that want to actually get really good consumer insights? Like, how do you guys did it for this case, for example?
Yeah, well, most of the time, our clients have already consumer insight because they talk to clients. They they look for the search words people are searching for. You can go into Google Insights. There are, of course, a lot of industry reports. So the best thing is, for example, do quantitative and qualitative research, but a lot of brands don't have the money for that. So sometimes we just invite people from the street and sit down at the bar and discuss a certain brand or a certain topic or a certain product. So search also inside yourself. Yeah, being logical about it. Ask around, and if you have the time and money for it, of course, it's good to have quantitative research. But you know, most of the time you can also get it yourself. A little bit more intuitive, and of course a little bit less foundation, but still I think that works good.
And then those steps that you mentioned, like the see, the think, the do, and care, I can help as a marketeer. I can help relating them to the typical marketing funnel, right? Awareness, consideration. Is that on purpose that you guys did it that way?
Yeah, but this is the way Google's doing it. And, it's a relatively small player in the game now. Of course, I mean, it's a big player in the game. So I thought this one really works for us. And but it's AIDA, it's all the same more or less. It's the marketing funnel, exactly. And with every marketing funnel stage, there are different objectives.
Awesome. Yeah. So we just got a question in. Please keep them coming throughout the whole webinar because we will address them all. Would you say creating content, branding for products and services is different from B2C to B2B companies? If yes, how and why?
Well, for me, I think it's not really different because you communicate to people. However, people tend to think that the B2B decision process is more rational. Yes, but also no. I think in B2B, you have to have your total funnel better in place than for B2C, because people can buy a bit more intuitively on B2C than B2B. But in general, I mean, B2B is the same. For example, LinkedIn, you also have these funnel stages. I mean, you have to be seen on LinkedIn, and then they have to click, and then you think, all right, what's interesting here? And then they have to click through, and then you have to make your decision and buying process easy. You know, it's totally. So it's the same structure, and it's the same thinking. Maybe a bit more in-depth content in the lower end of the funnel, I think.
Yeah. Clear. And then we got one other question that is very interesting actually for this campaign of Valority, is that how do you create a campaign with a consistent message for multiple markets, countries with different needs and customer behavior? Yeah,
very good question. That's challenging. What we do, we have a story on top. That's the overall main storyline of the brand. The good thing is that you can tell the story in different ways. For example, Romeo and Juliet has been told in a million ways.
Yeah.
And also the good thing is that you have different chapters within such a story. So you can be very versatile in your communication, in your story, but at the same time you build towards the main brand. For example, Nike, who says, okay, I'm a a warrior. I'm a hero. I fight against passivity and I want to get achievement. So just do it, get yourself off the couch. So they have on top, they have sacrifice everything with Copernic, you know. But for Nike women, just do a thing is about equal payment. But it's also about passivity, fighting passivity and getting achievement, but it's different in a different way. So the good thing is about working with this creative way is that you can become relevant for different segments, for different targets, for different stages, but still have more or less the main story.
Interesting. Nice. And the last question for you guys is, does this method work for brands in all industries? What a question.
Does it work for all industries?
For brands in all industries.
It's beyond all industries. Universal industries. Yes, this works for definitely all industries. We have been working for a lot of industries in the last years, and this has been proven that it works great.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, guys. If you beyond the screen have any other questions for Gijs, please keep them coming. Put them in the chat box, and if we have time at the end of this webinar, we will address them. And
we'll share the presentation.
Yes, we will share it as Gijs' presentation with all of you, so you can just use it later on.
Yeah.
But my advice is you can try to do it yourself, but give Lemon Tea a call. These guys know it better. So that's my advice.
We do some workshops also with brands just to get some introduction. You know? So I say, well, dive into it and give us a call.
Exactly. Okay, and now I'm gonna move into the next speaker, who is not just a pretty face, but he's also one very talented. Well, we cannot hear you yet. I think you are muted.
Can you hear me?
Is he? Oh no, sorry, my sound. Oh, there you go. No, you're not. It was just our sound. There you go. He is the head of partnerships of Media Monks. Media Monks is a huge creative agency, not only based in Amsterdam, but in many cities around the world. And it's an honor to have you joining us today, Jelle. Thank you so much. And now the digital stage is all yours. So if you want to share your screen.
Yeah, I'll do that. Before I begin, let's get the setup right. Here we go. It outperforms always the standard one-size-fits-all type of ads in any scenario. So ultimately, what we're working towards, like we call that like the infinite. So the key narratives, right? I think our creative team, they made 90 different, I think, storylines that fit within business and sports. And then the huge amount of variations, they were based on language, where people were, different call to actions. So they're still, from a creative standpoint, it's still human work. But the variations come in the different data points that we can use to further personalize that narrative, so to speak. So, and this was a beta tool back then. So it's nice. So now there's like a beautiful shiny interface, and brands who hit a certain spend, they can use this tool. But back then it was just like an email with a lot of code. So we really worked together with the Google teams to develop this tool. I hope that answers your question.
Jan-Jelle, a short, maybe a little bit step more in depth on this. Now you work with the criteria saying, for example, sports and business.
Yeah.
That, of course, is also a choice. You can also think about different criteria on how you basically change all these different scripts. Why these two? Why, for example, sports and business? Or it can also be outside or inside, or female or man, you know?
Actually, that's right. In a way, it is a bit limiting if you think about it like that. But I think the reason why sport and business, because it was really close to the nature of Narcos, right? So I think it's all around like doing business, and so we really want to have business-minded people. And then the sports angle, you know, like, yeah, exactly. And using that as sort of a base to create these variations around. So they share these key targets with us.
Yeah.
But it's right, because sometimes you really limit yourself, and it's sometimes better to widen it up first and then go deeper. But for this particular case, it was just these two segments.
And do you already then work? I'm really ahead of my own game because this is like future stuff. I think with artificial intelligence on this. So you really start to learn while this campaign is going, and the machine's learning. Well, this is just really way out there, huh? But I'm just curious.
That's actually a really good question. I don't know the answer, but you would expect that whether it exists now or that you would also work towards a technology that also learns, right?
Yeah.
Based on interaction.
Yeah.
And then also adapts the creative and the etc. Further based on
cool.
Based on that, which is maybe the next level.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm also super curious about, I mean, because of course not everyone in the room is like that experience as you are with the creative world. And I think this question is directly related to your role, but like when you have, let's say, a new client that comes in, they're like, yeah, we're just, we're a bit scared about that thing that you mentioned about, people being hypersensitive about data collection and so on, and want to set the burden. And also people that want to move a little bit away from the traditional, billboard and traditional advertising. How do you guys address this topic, especially in terms of like moving away from the traditional way of thinking? Like, it's that from your experience in Yale and like onboarding, especially new clients, is it like a hassle for you to convince people to try these new ways of advertising, or do you see that there is like a trend of people being more and more open and becoming friendlier with the idea?
Yeah, I think you have no choice. I think you have to, because the majority of your audience spends their time on digital. So the sooner or later you have to shift. And I think we are here to help people. I think depending on the size of the organization, it goes faster or slower. Some people are more risk averse than others. But I think that's what I like about my job, to really come in and identify like the brand objectives, who are the audiences, where do we need to go, then how and where do we reach these audiences, right? And often we partner up actually with partners like Levels of the T, who are more involved in like the strategic and the brand development phase, and then actually really execute that all across the different solutions and consumer touchpoints. So that's actually a super exciting job, if I can say that so.
Yeah, but for me, at least, like one of the biggest takeaways, I don't know what you think, Gijs, but like one of the biggest takeaways of your session is that, it's pointless to be so obsessed about data collection, but it's more important to collect the right data, right? Instead of just trying to just get everything, just focus on 2 or 3 key points that will make or break your campaign.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, the thing is a little bit that there's so much data, you have to have perspective and you have to make interpretation on the data, like you did with sports and business. And I think if you know as a brand exactly what you want to share, and I think with Netflix it's a little bit different because it's actually the content of Netflix which you're now sharing, so it's a different thing. But for us, when you talk about the brand and you have a story and perspective, then with that perspective you can really analyze your data. And of course it becomes a bit subjective, but you have to, or else you're gonna swim and drown in the end in the data sea.
Correct.
Yeah, because it can be overwhelming, in a way. So try to limit it, even if you use 1 or 2 data points to really create these different variations. That's already a huge, you will see an uptick in engagement or in ultimately conversion maybe.
Yeah. Well, we see also, for example, with our clients that they still think sometimes we have a video and then we do cut downs and it's all fine. But you need to have a concept that is for the total brand, but also for the total campaign. But you need also have a concept for the different channels, fit for channel, as you're saying, Jelle. And sometimes it's difficult because you say, well, the concept hours, or it takes too long, etc., etc. But it is more complex. So you have to, embrace the complexity, and then make also the overall story versatile enough to work with that complexity. But a lot of still a lot of clients also think it's quite difficult, and it is.
It is.
So it's a step-by-step learning process, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, because the time for churning out TV commercials is over. That I know.
Well, yeah, but you still, for example, for soap, you know, or like a mass brand, its cost per contact is relatively cheap with TV. You know, so you have different stages where you can be more personalized, and sometimes it's just get it out there. It can also work.
Yeah, it's a balance, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Guys, I think we can just keep chatting forever, but unfortunately we run out of time. It's been such an honor and such a pleasure to have you both joining our digital meetup. Hopefully the next one will be in person and we can actually answer everything.
Yeah, we'll be.
Any final words? Anything?
Well, Matthias, just thank you that we had the opportunity to be here, and hope you guys enjoyed it. And hopefully till another time.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Nice. I would like to encourage everyone to connect with us. Sorry, I cut you off the screen. To connect with us and ask questions. For the people that stayed up until now watching, thank you so much. For the people that are rewatching this later on, please feel free to get in touch, connect, add us on LinkedIn, Instagram if you want to. But most importantly, let's just connect, let's have a chat, and let's keep building this community of creative people, of marketing people, especially as Yele mentioned in times like this, where it's so uncertain. It's so, let's say, it's a difficult time to navigate if you're a creative. So let's get closer than ever.
Okay? Absolutely. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to you, Haj, and Lemos and Media Monks, and to you watching behind the screen. Thank you so much. I see you in the next edition of the PR Lab event. Thank you. And
thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Yes. And that should have stopped the live streaming.